And away we go. It is a Friday morning, back from vacation. Keith Irizarry, Mark Malusis will join us in just a few. It is Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network. You'll be able to rock with us until about noon Eastern time. Antwan Staley, one of my good buddies from back in the day. We met actually on social media, crazy enough. X or formerly Twitter, whatever it was. Started following each other many years ago. He has had an awesome career covering the NFL. Now he covers the New York Jets. We'll talk to him in hour number 2. There is actually legit NBA conversation to be had today. Damian Lillard is still a Blazer and doesn't want to talk about anything at all, basically. Giannis is essentially putting out some feelers to the Milwaukee Bucks like, hey, you guys better figure this out or I'm not going to be here for long. The week was nuts. The AL was, when you talk about baseball, the AL was turned upside down because Shohei Ohtani has a tear in his UCL and his throwing arm. And my goodness, why can't we just have nice things? It really is rough that we can't have nice things. I don't like it. But Shohei Ohtani, he says that he will continue to hit. And actually, if you're talking about this from a betting standpoint, nothing has changed. He is still your AL MVP. No one's catching him. The Kyle Tuckers of the world, the Corey Seagers of the world, none of them will be catching him. It's just as simple as that. Steven Strasburg, remember him? His career is over. All right, now we move on into the NFL because the NFL does reign supreme. And when Mark joins us, we will talk. Hey, there he is. Wonderful hair, looking all smiley.
Good morning. Good morning.
He's got that Disney glow. We're going to talk about our vacations. We'll do that a little bit later in the show too. You were in the most, what do they call it? The most wonderful place on earth?
Yeah, most wonderful. Well, happiest place on earth.
Happiest place on earth. We'll talk about that. And I was out in Europe eating lots of gelato and pizza. So there you go. Moose, you've been following along with these stories since you came back from vacation. I talked some baseball, some basketball. We'll get to that a little bit later. In football, there are names that we thought were going to be ready to play, like Josh Jacobs. He's essentially doing a hold in or hold out, whatever you want to call it. Jonathan Taylor essentially doing a hold in as well, now being allowed to go seek out trade partners. And they're basically saying in Indy, either get a trade by Tuesday or play football or don't. Pick one. We're not just throwing you to the Wolves. And then there's the Niners situation. So dealer's choice. If you had to pick your number one NFL story of those 3 that I just gave you, just those 3, because there's more. Aaron Rodgers is going to play football tomorrow. Those 3, what would be your top choice there?
Probably Taylor. No?
Yeah. Well, because what they're asking too, right? Like they want number 1 value or a number one pick, and running backs don't typically fetch that.
No, typically does not. No, well, right. I mean, but they're looking for teams. I mean, say if Jonathan Taylor lands in Miami or lands with the Buffalo Bills.
What about Chicago? I heard this rumor about Chicago.
Yeah.
Imagine giving Justin Fields a running back and a wide receiver in DJ Moore now.
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing. A massive step forward. I mean, but, it seems like, I mean, Taylor, when he's healthy, I mean, last year when we were talking about it, he was the number 1 fantasy running back in the National Football League and was remarkably productive. And last year was not healthy. Regression in the offensive line. Obviously, Matt Ryan didn't work at quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. And now the Colts are in a transition with, Anthony Richardson at the quarterback spot. And Taylor obviously wants to get paid. So, I mean, you look at Taylor, he can help out a lot of teams. We get back into the conversation of the devaluation of the running back in the National Football League and where we stand right now. But, I think if you're looking for a player that could probably change the expectations of a team that's available right now, I mean, that's Jonathan Taylor. It really is. I mean, he's got more game left than when Dalvin Cook decided to sign with the Jets. Taylor is going to cost you a little bit. But if you feel like you're in a win now mode, say you're the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they've been searching for a running game forever. You're expected to be a playoff team. You give up a pick that's in the 20s, late 20s, with the potential, because we all expect the Buffalo Bills to be a playoff team this year, even with, the falling short of expectations a year ago. But now you all of a sudden have Taylor running the football, alleviates some of the stress off Josh Allen in the passing game, makes you a better cold weather team, gives you a better option. They've been searching for that ground game for years up there in Buffalo, trying to find that, that guy that's going to kind of unlock that ground game consistently. Jonathan Taylor up in Buffalo would certainly do that, as he would down in Miami. You're looking to keep Tua healthy when you've got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Stick Jonathan Taylor in that backfield down there for the Miami Dolphins. And now things really open up because you have to respect the ground game with him on the field, and that opens up things more for Waddle and Tyreek Hill on the outside.
Yeah, so if I'm, reading what you're saying, if you are a team that believes you can win a Super Bowl, but you're lacking a stud running back, you'd give up a late first-round pick. So if you're Miami, you're Buffalo, Marc Malusis would do it. Like, I look through, and we could do the whole dance around the AFC. So Patriots wouldn't go after him. Jets wouldn't go after him. Steelers, I don't think, would. Ravens would not. Browns would not. Bengals would not. Jacksonville would not. Indy, obviously, he's there already. Houston, I don't see what the point would be. Tennessee would not. Vegas won't. Come back to the Chiefs in just a second. Chargers won't, and Broncos probably won't either. Would the Chiefs throw their name in the hat there?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, but do they really need to?
I agree.
I don't know if they necessarily need to. I think they're able to get by with guys like Isaiah Pacheco, who's a nice young running back, 7th round pick. He's not of the caliber, nor would I ever say he's of the caliber of a Jonathan Taylor running the football, Keith. But they don't necessarily need him because everything runs through obviously Patrick Mahomes. Now you might say, well, I mean, aren't you speaking out of both sides of your mouth because you've got Josh Allen up there in Buffalo with the Bills? Yeah, but we've seen Buffalo at times, with the lack of ground game, hurts them in short yardage situations or certain situations over the course of the game. They've not been able to find that guy, whether it be, Zach Moss, never really worked out. He had that, that severe injury in the Indianapolis Colts playoff game a couple of years ago. Devin Singletary was another one right up there in Buffalo. He had an issue holding on to the football. They've now got
James Cook,
right? Dalvin Cook's brother up there. Is he necessarily going to be the guy? So if you look at, the Buffalo Bills and you say, all right, well, we're in win now mode. We're going to be getting Von Miller back at some point this year. When we had Miller last year, our pass rush was outstanding. When we didn't have him, we saw what happened in the playoff game, especially in the snow against the Cincinnati Bengals. A little bit of a big time disappointment. So now you look at it and you say, well, if I throw Taylor into the mix now, am I that, do I take a massive step forward if I'm the Buffalo Bills? For sure I do. I don't know if I'm Kansas City. I'm not telling you they couldn't use Jonathan Taylor for sure. But is that necessarily a need move for the Kansas City Chiefs? I don't know if it necessarily is.
All right, NFC. Lions would be a no. Packers would be a no. Vikings would be a no. Bears would be a maybe. The Saints probably not. Falcons, no. Buccaneers, probably not. Panthers, probably not. The Seahawks, no. Niners, no. Cardinals, no. Rams, probably not. So the reason I do that is because I want to come back to the beginning of this. I think you nailed it. There are probably 2 teams, maybe 3, because I'm throwing the Bears in there as a wild card. Team, that would give up the value that the Colts want for this. Again, the want and the need thing, because the want and the need thing goes, listen, if suddenly, I don't know, the New York Giants could have Jonathan Taylor for a 7th round pick, sure, they would do it and then they'd figure it out, but that's not realistic. The realistic stuff is I only see 3 real teams.
Yeah, and reportedly there's been 6 that have reached out. I think you look at it and say, well, what teams do you think potentially have an opportunity to be in the top 15 of next spring's NFL draft? Take those teams off the mix. They're not going to be giving up a first-round pick for Jonathan Taylor. And then you start with everybody else, and you move on from there, whether it be a GM and a coach that feel desperate that they need to win in order to retain their jobs, or whether it be a team that's looking to make it to the playoffs and potentially win a Super Bowl. If I'm Taylor, I understand my value. I understand that I need to get paid. You're going to see running backs hold the line even harder moving forward because of what happened with Saquon Barkley this offseason. You're seeing that now with Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, the relationship with the Indianapolis Colts is frayed. We've seen their owner, Jim Irsay, come out and speak publicly. We've seen some comments from Jonathan Taylor as well, and now they've given him the opportunity to go out there and seek a trade. I think a team that's looking for that finishing piece, if you were the Miami Dolphins and you were in on Dalvin Cook, how could you not be on Jonathan Taylor? And if you're the Buffalo Bills and you're looking to try and win a Super Bowl in what is a very, very loaded AFC, you throw Taylor into the mix, well, then your offense can look differently. Say if Josh Allen suffers the elbow injury that he suffered last year in that Jet game, and then all of a sudden you can win a little bit differently because you've got a stud running back. Not everything is reliant on the quarterback. We all understand. Keith and I understand, and we know it's a quarterback-driven league. There's 100%. That's no doubt. You need to have one in order to win. But it can look a little bit different where you don't put all the onus offensive pressure on your quarterback when you have a guy like Taylor.
And just to talk more about Buffalo, I mean, McDermott and even Josh Allen has admitted that Josh Allen running as much as he's ran throughout his entire, early portion of his career is not going to be good for the longevity of his career. At some point, he can't be the guy that runs the minute things break down. He needs to be able to either hand the ball off to a running back or check down to a running back or get it out of his hands quickly to a wide receiver. So I think that Buffalo, Miami make the most sense. And to me, Chicago's the wild card team. I know you mentioned there are a couple other teams that might be involved as well. All right, the other big story, Moose, out of San Francisco is I don't want to say demise because he's not gone, but like Trey Lance becoming the third string quarterback is crazy considering what the Niners gave up, multiple firsts, a third round pick just to move up to get him. And now he can't even beat out Sam Darnold. Yes, New York Jets superstar Sam Darnold.
Yeah, which is crazy. What's even crazier is, San Francisco, even with all the capital they gave up, really haven't missed a beat. They're one of the most talented rosters in the National Football League.
That's what happens when you get lucky and get Mr. Irrelevant to be your starter.
That is true, but that's also a credit to their scouting department to be able to find guys that can help their team that fit their system and they believe they can get the most out of. So. It's interesting when you look at, he must stink. Let's be perfectly honest. He must be absolutely terrible when you're looking at Trey Lance in San Francisco when, Brock Purdy off the elbow injury is your starter and they bring in Sam Darnold and Sam Darnold ends up being a backup quarterback and they must have little to no confidence that Trey Lance can play. It's a shame we've barely seen him. When we did see him, he suffered the severe ankle injury. Then they had to go back in and redo some of the surgery because it wasn't healing properly. Now we've seen him here. You knew he was raw coming out of college. You knew he was going to have to give some time in order to go out there and develop. And now Trey Lance looks like he's not going to be particularly much in the National Football League.
I think that depending on what the Niners would want. Now, I know we're hearing the rumors are that they're just going to keep him. They're not going to bother dealing. I guess there's just no market whatsoever. But if he was available, if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm making a phone call. I don't know if I believe in Baker Mayfield. Took him a while to even beat out Kyle Trask. I'm going to make a phone call. You're clearly in not win now mode anyway in call. Tampa. Why not?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I don't. If you're San Francisco, why would you not want to? I know you're going to be trading it at pennies on the dollar.
Even if you get a fifth pick.
Whatever it might be, you recoup something back for what you gave up. It's not going to be close to what you gave up, but let's be honest. Trey Lance, if he's ever a starter in the National Football League, it's not going to be in San Francisco with the 49ers.
No. I think he'll get another chance somewhere else. It's not going to be as a Niner. I also don't know if he ever gets a chance as a starter either. There is a bunch of stuff going on in the NFL with quarterbacks as well. Deshaun Watson understands why people are maybe looking past him. And Russell Wilson says, you know what, Denver, we're going to be just fine. We'll break down those two quarterbacks and so much more. He is Moose. I am Keith. It is Moose and Keith on Better Sports Network, and we will be right back.
I think that this is something I've always advocated in all my shows I've done for 10 plus years. I always say to people, get your guys. You're going to be rooting for these guys all season. Whoever you want to root for, whoever you want to that you think is going to be the fun guy to cheer for, get him on your team. However, as you just pointed out, and I don't know if you have any hard figures in front of you, Bradley, but there is something to be said for, my God, I was planning on Aaron Jones this round. I did not plan on Jahmyr Gibbs still being here. Maybe I have to skip who I want here and take the guy that is being handed to me by my other 11 competitors, because this is going to help me be a better best ball drafter.
Yeah, Hayden Winks has done a lot of amazing work in documenting all of the drafts and getting that data. And there's tremendous, irrefutable evidence to suggest that drafting a player significantly ahead of ADP, maybe once, is not going to hurt you, but multiple times, or reaching on 3 or 4 players more than a round ahead of ADP in those first 3/4 of the draft is going to significantly inhibit your ability to access league winning or tournament winning upside. It's like, we want to win the money, so why are we not trying to get players who are going to give us value? And just because you don't like a player doesn't mean that you shouldn't be taking them in that spot. I don't think there's a player that you should be 100% out on we're talking May 18th.
Mm-hmm.
A lot can change between now and the start of the season. In fact, it's the same distance from now to the start of the season as from now to January, right? So we're like halfway through the offseason. There's a lot of green grass to happen. So if you're drafting right now, consider just continuing to accumulate value in your drafts as you're drafting in FFPC or in other places.
I stay focused on what I got to do and control what I can control. The rankings there's always a rankings each and every year. So at the end of the day, you can't focus on that, because there's always that ranking is always changing. And for me, I missed 2 years of football, so I shouldn't be in those rankings, to be honest. If you're asking me, I haven't played enough football the last 2 years to even be up there. So I got to go out there and prove and show what I got to do and to get back in those conversations. But for me, I just lock in on what I need to lock in on and just focus on my tasks, and everything else will take care of itself.
All right, Moose, that was Deshaun Watson. He might be the most difficult player to react to because of, the off the field stuff that happened and why he was suspended and the fall from grace that he had. But let's just talk football in general.
Yeah.
I thought he nailed it there, because he's right. It's been, 2020, he was the understudy to Mahomes as the next great quarterback in the NFL. 21, 22 basically go by the wayside. He looked horrible at moments last year when he did play in minimal time. And now it's about him earning back the trust of the fan base, but also earning back the trust of all of us thinking whether he could be an elite QB. And I think he will. I think he has a chance to really bounce back in that roster.
Yeah, well, we talked about it throughout training camp, talking about the Cleveland Browns. If you're believing in the Browns, then you're believing in Watson being able to step back and find the form that he had with the Houston Texans, where he was a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League. And he and DeAndre Hopkins was an unbelievable combination. Now, there's the contrarian viewpoint that says, well, you take 2 years off, and not because he wanted to, because he had to, because of everything that was going on away from the field. And the Texans didn't want him representing the franchise, and then he got suspended by the National Football League. So we understand all of that with Deshaun Watson. So you're away from the game for 2 years. Does that mean that all of a sudden you have an impact to where you can never find that once again? Like that does become part of the conversation once again. Like, it's not automatic that he all of a sudden has to become once again the player he was in Houston. There is the chance, however small of a percentage you want to put on that chance, or big of a percentage you want to put on that chance, that he's never that quarterback again, that guy is gone, that he'll never return, that the Browns paid because they believed he would return, but that guy is gone forever. So there is that possibilities. I think he was forthright and honest. I don't know if you based on what he did in Houston a long time ago, if you can put Deshaun Watson and look at him in the rankings and where he places, I think he's got to go out there and earn it. And the other issue is, last year it looked terrible. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. I mean, when you were watching the Browns game last year, he looked awful. Now people are going to say, and we talked about at the time, that it was ring rust and that it was an issue with his time away from the National Football League. But does he look great in this preseason? Not really. I mean, we'll see exactly what he is come the regular season. That's what players are defined as and defined by. But if he's great, the Browns have an opportunity to be really good this year.
The other thing that I would throw out there about this roster and the way it is, besides Amari Cooper, it's not like they have these world beaters at wide receiver. I mean, Elijah Moore was a failed project in New York. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a good, yards after catch guy, but okay, Jakeem Grant, David Bell, Cedric, they don't have studs on studs on studs, right? So Amari Cooper is going to have to turn back the clock to be the 1,000-yard wide receiver that he once was. Can he do that with Watson? If so, great. Nick Chubb is one of the 5 to 7 most talented running backs in the NFL. But we do forget that, Kareem Hunt was there and was taking some of the pressure off him. So let's see how Chubb handles being really the only guy there. With all that being said, I think that Watson is going to put up some pretty good numbers. I don't think he's going to be 2020 Watson, but I think he can be a top 12 QB in the NFL and also fantasy-wise too.
Yeah, and if he's that, then the Browns are going to be relevant in the AFC.
Yeah. Yep.
If he's a top 12 quarterback in the National Football League, then that's a clear step forward than what we saw last year. And the Cleveland Browns have enough talent around him, as you mentioned, with Nick Chubb, with Myles Garrett, with what they have defensively, to be a playoff contender in what is a loaded AFC.
All right, so we do want to hear from you guys, and go to YouTube, click on the call button. Feel free to join in the conversation, join in the chat as well. So from Deshaun Watson, we will now move to Russell Wilson. And there's a correlation here on purpose that I'm setting up here. So Russell Wilson, on how people are viewing him and the Denver Broncos.
Sean Payton has basically, in what he said, even after his apology to Nathaniel Hackett and to the New York Jets, I think even after that apology, it's very clear why he did what he did, and that is to say, Russ, me and you against the world, baby. And so I will be surprised if Russell Wilson doesn't have a significant comeback. And Rich, the reason why Sean Payton took this job, other than you could make light of it and say, well, there's 19 or 20 million reasons a year for the next 5 years why he took the job. But I don't think he was going to take this job if the quarterback of the team was John Doe, or the quarterback of the team was what they had in their recent history. I think he's only going to take a job if there was a quarterback that he felt that he definitely had a chance to win with. And I've had enough off-the-record conversations with him, in the last few months to know that he really thinks that Russell Wilson is salvageable and is going to be okay. So as to for what they're doing right now, I believe if you look at Sean Payton's history and you look at him with Drew Brees, you know that, yes, he's going to want to throw the ball downfield without any question. But he is going to make sure that there are completions for Russell Wilson on every pass drop. So I don't know what anybody wants to do in fantasy football, but all I can say is there's going to be a couple of his receivers who are going to put up, I think, extremely good numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, it's I would imagine you're going to a head coach and with Sean Payton that is going to, and we talked about at the time what he had to say about Nathaniel Hackett providing coverage for Russell Wilson. It was the take, and people went crazy and berserk. You saw the comments from Aaron Rodgers, so that's not all that surprising. And can Sean Payton get the best out of Russell Wilson, or will he have a significant step forward after what we saw last year? Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment from Peter King, who we all know and love, that he could have that step forward. Now, the question with Wilson is, it's got to be different.
Throwing to? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, now everyone's hurt out there in Denver. Judy just suffered a hamstring injury, so he's going to be out for the next couple of weeks. We'll see if he's ready for week 1. He was carted off the field, right? So, I mean, that's usually when you're looking at hamstring injuries, that's usually not a 2-week injury. Maybe he's back in a couple weeks. Maybe he's not. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I know there's a difference between being hurt and being injured, but that's something that could be nagging throughout the course of the year. The question with Wilson is, can he be successful looking at it where it's different than what he looked like with the Seattle Seahawks? He doesn't run like he used to. He doesn't have this quick step like he used to. You saw, and the Seattle Seahawks would grade him out, you saw a deterioration in the athleticism with Russell Wilson during his final years in Seattle. You even saw that step back last year. He's been mocked. He's been made fun of. Teammates have ripped him. There have been a lot that's gone on with Russell Wilson. Can Sean Payton rectify all of that in 1 year? To me, that's a little bit of a bridge too far. I'm not telling you can't have a bounce back year. I just don't know exactly what it looked like, because I thought at times last year Russell Wilson almost looked like a boxer that couldn't release his hands anymore.
Yes, it's a great point. I think he's a shell of himself right now, but I do believe that Sean Payton can get him to play better football without all the weapons. He's got nothing there. Cortland Sutton, we don't know what Javonte Williams is going to be as a running back. Samaje Perine is kind of just a guy. The offensive line is just fine. Like, there's nothing there that oozes, this is bounce back to Pro Bowl status. This feels like bounce back to formidable QB in the NFL. We do have a question there in the chat. You know what, Jeb? We'll get to your question after this break. Got to take a quick break. We'll get into a little bit more fantasy football there.
Fantasy football question from Jeb Armstrong. Looking forward to that. Yeah,
we'll get to that also. We got a bunch of basketball and baseball stuff to talk about this first hour as well. Marc Malusis, Keith Irizarry, we're back from vacation. I ate so much pizza and so much gelato, and it was so
we got to
good.
talk about vacations.
We will. And you had Mickey Mouse ears on every single day.
I did. I enjoyed it. Yeah, when in Disney World, you got to get into Disney World.
Be Disney. Back at it in a few. Keep it locked right here.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in Dynasty Fantasy Football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in Dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format of fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played Dynasty, it has been, I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you got to have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise, you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim, who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
Back at it. Mark Malusis, Keith Irizarry. Moose, we teased it before the break, and we will get to NBA and baseball, but Jeb Armstrong in our chat. Hey, guys, I'm in a standard 10-man league with the 8th pick. What's the best draft strategy for the first 5 picks? Am I crazy to go wide receiver first and wide receiver second? I have an answer to this. I'll let you go first, though.
No. No, I don't think you're crazy to go wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I'm really not. I think it's a passing league. I think there's so much when you look at the running back market, it can change so drastically from week to week. Really can with one win injury. I'm not telling you that there's not special guys like Christian McCaffrey. Certainly there are. But Keith, I mentioned it to you, after last season, we were talking about, retrospect, looking back on the 2022 NFL regular season, that, I would probably go wide receivers in the first 2 rounds and feel pretty confident because I know I basically feel more confident and I know what I'm going to get from those wide receivers as compared to the running back market.
All right. So I agree with you, PPR. I actually disagree with you here in the standard league. I can't go wide receiver in a standard league because I'm not getting any extra points for the catches. I feel one of those first 2 picks has to be a running back for me. And doing enough of these mock drafts over the last couple of weeks, whether it's for my own just ability and edification or even just helping my children out with their drafts as well. At the 8th spot, I've been seeing Bijan Robinson very available there. You could go to a Tony Pollard if you really wanted to, or you can take wide receiver there. And then on the way back, Derrick Henry has been very available early on in the second round. I feel like I got to get a running back in those first 2 picks. And as for
would you go running back?
Depends on who's there. I would play that board. So what I've noticed is if you go running back at 8, you probably go wide receiver then at, would do math. What is that? The 5th pick of the second round. And then in the 3rd round, I'm probably going running back again, where I'm getting like a Jahmyr Gibbs type in that ADP. Then I'm going to be able to get a wide receiver in round 4. Then I might be able to get either another, depending on what you're starting, Jeb, another wide receiver or another running back. And then I'm starting to think about quarterbacks as well. That's kind of how I would handle it. Also, I'm fascinated to see and I didn't do a mock today after the Jerry Jeudy injury, to see what someone like Courtland Sutton, if he skyrockets up from, he's been going in like the 8th round.
All right, question from Drew Johnson. What up, fellas? In a 10-man keeper, a full PPR league, JJ, Chase, Cup are keepers by other guys in my league. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown as my keeper. I pick 1.02. Do I pick Eckler, Kelsey, Tyreek as my first?
I wish. All right. So Jefferson's gone. Chase is gone. Cup is gone, which clearly means the best wide receiver available in this draft is Tyreek Hill. So I won't take Eckler there. I'm going to move on for a second. Eckler, no. I would be between Tyreek and Kelsey. And the reason I'm looking at both of these guys, Kelsey, the average week, and I have this number, I'm going off the top of my head, so please excuse me if I'm a little bit off here. Last season, from Kelsey to tight end number 2, you were basically getting an extra 6 points per week, every single week, by having Travis Kelsey on your roster, okay? So the delineation from tight end number 1 and Kelsey to whomever you think is number 2, Andrews, Hawkinson, Pitts, go on and on, Kittle, all the tight ends, right? It's so much of a stark difference. So as long as you believe that Kelsey is going to continue to be Travis Kelsey, that difference is massive. Now, I would love to know if Devontae Adams is available, is Garrett Wilson available? That would help me a little bit more, Drew, on the Tyreek thing. I think I would lean Kelsey by a hair over Tyreek Hill.
I agree with you. I think you nailed it. And there you have it, Drew. I would take Travis Kelsey. Even though Tyreek Hill's talking about having over 2,000 yards receiving. The other question is, and I agree with Keith, I would take Eckler off the board. I think it's either Kelsey or Tyreek Hill. The other concern I have with the Miami Dolphins is Tua staying healthy the entire year. Now you have to say, well, how does that offense look? Say Tua goes down. couldn't stay healthy at Alabama, has not been able to stay healthy in Miami, not rooting against him. I know he looks a little thicker this year and has worked on falling and all those kind of things. I would tell you that I would take Travis Kelce, though, because I have concerns about Tua staying healthy in Miami.
All right, there you go. Drew Johnson did respond. Wilson is someone's keeper. Devontae's available. Now, Devontae still would be behind Tyreek Hill. And realistically, you're not getting Devontae. Like if you're at 1.02 on the turn back, I'm sure, unless everyone has kept number ones and number twos, I doubt you're getting Devontae Adams. Now, if there's a way for you to figure this out, and you, Drew, you have your board in front of you, okay? So if you know, how many teams in this is a 10-team league?
10 man.
If everyone, because you know, all right, so you know for a fact that Eckler, Kelce, and Tyreek are going to be, those three are definitely getting taken in first and second round, depending on all the keepers. If you get lucky and feel like you can come on back and get Devontae, I highly doubt you'd be able to. But if that was a way, then clearly that just gave you your answer as well. Then you go Kelce, and then you try to hold out and get Devontae.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know where A.J. Brown is. Was he kept? You know, it's like there are other questions there.
I think the pick is Kelce. You hammered it. I mean, and there's no drop off. It's not like he's rumbling down the field. I mean, Travis Kelce's still there athletically, so you have not seen any kind of an issue where injuries in the past have caught up with him. I would take Travis Kelce with the pick.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's do. You want to get to a little NBA?
I think we should. You know, I think it's the time of the season right now where it's a little smorgasbord, a buffet of topics.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Dame Lillard, we have some comments from Lillard, who's still a member of the Portland Trailblazers. And here he is. Where was he when he was talking about Portland, or he refused to talk about
This
Portland?
is Anscape. This is with Mark Spears.
There you go, with Mark Spears. Here's Dame Lillard talking about the fact of where he is right now as the NBA is right around the corner.
That brought you uncertainty about the future of the Blazers franchise?
I'm not going to speak on the Blazers. It's a lot of love and respect, but I won't speak on the Blazers.
It's well documented that there have been a trade request. Is to the Miami Heat. Is there anything that you could say about the trade request?
I can say that there was, and I would just prefer not to speak on the Trailblazers.
Do you know why he acted like that? What do you think? What's your take on that? I got a theory.
Well, let me hear your theory.
James Harden just got fined $100,000 for talking poorly of Daryl Morey. I think this is going to become a thing. I think that Damian Lillard went on that interview and was making a point, because he was going to do an interview where he wasn't going to answer anything, because he's making a point that players aren't allowed to speak about management right now. I think he was making a point.
I also think Lillard has a great respect for the Blazers fan, what he's accomplished in Portland, and how the Blazer fan feels about him. I don't think Damian Lillard wants to go scorched earth. And that's fair about that. I just think Harden doesn't care. I mean,
Harden wants to play in China now, he said.
Well,
did you see that quote?
James
He's
Harden.
like, the people in China, they always show me love. I feel like it would be great to show them what I am.
Yeah, go play in China then. I mean, honestly, if he wants to go out there and go play in
hang
China,
out to Dwight Howard.
I mean, that's fine. But I mean, James Harden has had, scorched earth in Houston, then in Brooklyn, now in Philadelphia. Like, James Harden doesn't care. I mean, he really doesn't. There's no sense of professionalism. There's none of that. Like, Dame Lillard has been a really loyal member of the Portland Trailblazers. And it came to a point where, Dame Lillard would like to try and win some basketball games and win a championship and play meaningful games in the playoffs. And at this stage, he has had enough. And, it's the storyline we see every year in the NBA is, what's the next disgruntled superstar and why is that individual disgruntled? Well, I think there are a lot of people that look at Dame Lillard and take the money. Everybody in the NBA makes a lot of money. Take that out of the equation. Just look at it and say, well, you can understand why Lillard's a little frustrated about the direction and where the Portland Trailblazers are and where they are in terms of the pantheon of the NBA and trying to win an NBA championship. So therefore, he's looking to get out. And you might be right. He's not going to go, and nor do I think he would ever. I don't think it's part of his character to go do what James Harden decided to do to Daryl Morey in the Philadelphia 76ers, and then subsequently gets fined $100,000. Like, that's a nightmare. That's a disaster, calling him a liar. Lillard is now, he's going to play nice guy. You know, he wants to get where he wants to get to. He wants to get to Miami. He wants to get to Spoelstra. He wants to get to Miami. And Pat Riley, he knows it's a winning program, and he knows they're close to winning an NBA championship, and believes that he can be the final piece. And he fine with Portland. I don't think he wants to disrespect everything he's accomplished in the Blazers fan by going scorched earth at the end.
I also, what bothers me about this entire situation is actually not anything with Damian Lillard, the human being. It's actually the Blazers. At what point are you just going to say, he doesn't want to play for us anymore, we're going to move in a different direction, let's just make the trade, make the deal? You're never going to get exactly what you want in return. Damian Lillard is, while he's still can score and score and score, and he's an all-star, this isn't 5 years ago. He is, again, he might still play 6 more years. But what I'm saying is he's no longer a 26, 27-year-old future star. He's a current star. Just trade, get what you can. If Miami's offering you Tyler Hero, who is a 20-point scorer, he's not Damian Lillard, but he's a guy that you can plug into your lineup immediately. He could be, not an all-star, but he could be a starter for you. Get a few draft picks, call it a day. Everyone walks away.
Move on, right?
Yeah, everyone walks away. I don't know if you walk away happy, but maybe you walk away satisfied. Is that a fair way to word it?
When you trade when you trade the great player, and that is what Lillard is, you're never necessarily going to get equal value back in return. You're not going to end up winning that trade. It is what it is. You had him for a while. You had him when he became a superstar. You weren't able to capitalize on that. You weren't able to build around him and win a championship. It is what it is. I know emotions are coming into play now. Lillard, in the end, I've said it all along, he's going to end up with the Miami Heat. By hook or by crook, Dame Lillard is going to be a member of the Miami Heat during the course of the regular season. I fully believe that. Nothing will deter me from that. I don't care what other teams got involved. I mean, people were talking about Boston. They signed Jaylen Brown and gave him that huge contract extension. He's obviously going to be up in Boston. We're going to see the Brown-Tatum combination. There's nowhere else to go. Maybe they get a third team involved where they're willing to take Tyler Hero up and give up draft capital and take Tyler Hero back. But in the end, Lillard's going to end up with Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Eric Spoelstra, and the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree on that one.
Yeah, we're coming back. Let's get into a little bit of the Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani, injured, torn UCL. A couple other NBA storylines. We hinted upon the James Harden situation in Philadelphia. Interesting comments from Giannis about his future with the Milwaukee Bucks as well. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Marc Malusis. It's Moose and Keith with you right here on a Friday, Better Sports Network.
Kendre Miller fan. He's running back 46 in the Fantasy Pros Championship right now at the end of the 11th round. I want you to talk a little bit about him from both standpoints. Number one, from redraft. He's in the backfield, same backfield as Alvin Kamara, who we talked about in the first hour, and then obviously Jamal Williams. But as far as dynasty goes too, what should you be doing now if you're a dunce like me and missed on Miller? What kind of offers should you be making for Kendre Miller in your dynasty leagues right now?
Well, the problem now is the news worked against you, right? In the sense that you know that there's a suspension looming. We don't know what that suspension is. So do you try to go after him prior to the suspension, or do you wait to see how long it is?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the higher the suspension is, the more expensive Kendre is going to be. It gives him an opportunity. We saw Kamara, you don't have to go farther than New Orleans. We saw Kamara take advantage. I remember they brought in Adrian Peterson. They had what's his name? Mark Ingram.
Yep.
Right. And then they brought in Kamara, and everyone's like, there's no way Kamara's gonna be relevant year one. And he smashed because talent comes through. These teams want to win now. They're gonna put the best players out there. Kendre Miller comes off of a 1,400-yard season. Like, one thing for me, bulky in fantasy, is if you showed me you did it, I'm gonna believe you.
Mm-hmm.
This whole upside thing where you've never done it, I'm over all of that. Like, tight end position I talk about often. That's why I don't invest in rookie tight ends. I'll pay the price for a Kelsey. I'll pay for a Kittle when I know they're going to smash for me, right? Running back, you're looking for talent. You're looking for proven. This guy's proved it. And progression. You look at his career in college, he's progressed every year in the receiving game, in the rushing game. There's something about when you watch him play, and sometimes it's not, I don't have a great stat for you or anything, but there's certain guys when I see him play, something kind of, and he's one of the guys when I started watching his tape and just seeing what he can do. I think he can be an all-around workhorse. He had 224 touches in his last season in college. So look, we talk about New Orleans. We don't know what this offense is going to look like. They have a new quarterback. They have everything, a whole new situation there. He could come in with Kamara out and just take over that backfield right away.
All right, Marc and Keith with you right here on this Friday Better Sports Network. Let's wrap up the NBA conversation. Interesting things. Number one, Giannis in Milwaukee, talking about the fact that he's not going to sign a contract extension with the Milwaukee Bucks until there's a championship commitment. He would like to remain. In Milwaukee his entire career. Thinks there's something to being I would say a one city or one team over the course of your career. There's something to that, but also said championships to him is a big time key, and that he wants to win titles. What do you make of the latest comments from Giannis and his future in Milwaukee?
I think it's a players' league, and he is trying to let the Milwaukee Bucks know, I love you. I love being here. I want more than one championship. This was about the whole sign an extension. And he was saying, all right, so next summer would make more sense for both parties. Even then, I don't know. I would not be the best version of myself if I don't know that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's going for a championship. Everybody's going to sacrifice time away from their family like I do. And if I don't feel that, I am not signing. That is 100% saying, get me another star and or get me more players here and an organization that will live and will only live and die by winning championships. I don't have a problem. I really don't. I don't have a problem with it. He's been there long enough. You're an MVP. You're a multi-time All-Star. You're one of the 2 or 3 best players in the world. I think you can say this stuff. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. I really don't. Now, and if you're Milwaukee, you're not going to be stupid. You're going to do everything that Giannis is looking for. Then, if he's got to, well, yeah, I'm not letting him leave, right? And then if something happens, and then he's not happy, and the championship commitment, whatever that might be, player empowerment, we've talked about it, and having control, see what kind of guys and what personnel decisions or how much control or how much say he has in some of those decisions being made. I mean, I think they've done a lot of different things in order to try and improve that Milwaukee Buck team over the years, but I don't mind Giannis, a star player, using some of the leverage that he does have. Now, how do you think the situation in Philadelphia plays out with Harden and the Sixers?
It's so weird because this feels to me like I'm watching reality television. And what I mean by that is, and I know you're not as much into reality TV as I am, but I think we all at some point in our lives watched the Jersey Shore. We probably watched, remember, what was the dating game with Bret Michaels? Rock of Love.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
whatever
like
it was.
Yeah.
It's train wrecks. That's what we're watching. And I think that we're watching this here with the Philadelphia 76ers as well. James Harden wants outs. Daryl Morey, he said, she said, like, I have no idea who to believe, what to believe. I wish I had a bucket here. I would grab it. I would take my popcorn. I would eat it and just watch. Now, you ask the question, how does this end? Is it fair for me to say, I don't know?
Yeah, I think it's fair.
I have no idea. If you told me, Mark, that James Harden would be playing for, I don't know, Beijing this upcoming season, it wouldn't shock me. You told me he's the starting guard for the Philadelphia 76ers with Maxey and Embiid, wouldn't shock me. And if you told me that he was playing for a different team, wouldn't shock me. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a scenario where it's right now so fluid. I mean, I have no idea. I don't. I would say this. It would shock me if he's back in Philadelphia. I think he's someplace else. I don't know where that ends up being. I don't think you can come back, make these kind of comments that he made, go scorched earth, and then step back into that room with the Philadelphia 76ers. I really don't, because clearly it's over money. Clearly it's over promises being made. Clearly it's over what happened last year and him taking a little bit less money or taking taking a haircut in order to help out the organization. Thought in the end he was going to get paid out. That's the one that would be stunned if he's back with the Philadelphia 76ers where he's playing. I mean, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's in Los Angeles with the Clippers. There's been rumors about the Phoenix Suns, before they acquired Bradley Beal. Obviously, that has now gone by the wayside. I don't know where Harden goes. I don't think he's he's not a Miami Heat player. Like, no. I don't think there's any way that, Miami, if they miss out on Dame Lillard, which I don't think they would Miami go the James Harden route? I don't think that's happening.
Well,
so
because he's a weird entity, and I say it that way on purpose because talent-wise, first ballot Hall of Famer, right? For what he's done on the floor, with the way that he can score, the way one season he just decided he was going to lead the NBA in assists per game, and he did it. But it's all the baggage that comes along. And it's not the baggage where, like, it's not John Morant baggage necessarily. It's the baggage of he just gets cranky and wants to leave all the time. That's the kind of baggage you're dragging along. And you don't know if that fits in with some of the cultures you're trying to build.
Crazy. I mean, it just is. It really is. Mentioned it and teased it before, is that over to Major League Baseball, Shohei Ohtani, now with the UCL tear, in his pitching elbow, and Keith, number one, feel terrible.
Horrible.
I mean, because we're getting robbed. He's the best player in all of Major League Baseball, one of the best athletes in professional sports, iconic global star. There's no doubt about it. When you look at Shohei Ohtani, he's about to be a free agent after the season. We'll see what his pitching future is. He's going to be the MVP of the American League. We know how good of a player he is. He's going to continue to hit here moving forward, right? I mean, that's so that's not going to be an issue for the Angels here. Now, the question is, how does it impact his free agency after the season?
I think it knocks about $100 million off of what he was going to get. I do. I think he was going to be a $500 million player. Now he's a $400 million player. I'm not going to cry over that if I'm Shohei Ohtani.
No, it's not a matter of that. It's just now it's the second UCL tear in 5 years.
Yeah, and I think there's got to at least whomever would sign him, whether it's an opposing team or whether it is the Angels, you at least have to start thinking about the future of signing Ohtani as not a pitcher anymore. You have to at least have that in the back of your mind that there's a chance that whomever, like this player that you're signing, Shohei Ohtani, may not be Ohtani pitcher, Ohtani hitter also. You may just be getting hitter. And then you have to decide, is $400 million the right going rate for a guy that's batting 300? He's going to hit 52 home runs, let's say, this year. He's going to get over 100 RBIs. He's going to steal 25 bases. If that number, price number, works for all of those stats, then it works. Just remember, you may not be getting a pitcher, but I'm going to throw a wrinkle in there, but let you respond to that first. I'm going to throw a pitching wrinkle in that I
would say this because of how big of a marketing giant he is. He's going to be worth it.
Oh, global icon. Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, I think because of what he is, and he's the best player in the sport, even though, you're going to have to overpay to go get him. And I don't even know if he wants to play on the East Coast. I mean, he may just end up out West. But, yeah, I mean, we've seen him. He's a prodigious offensive player as well. I mean, let's not make it out to be like, oh, he's just he's an okay hitter. He's an unbelievable hitter. He really is. So if I'm just ending up with him offensively here moving forward, after seeing some of the drop-off with some guys across Major League Baseball, I'd be okay with that if I'm a team.
And I think the argument could be made, as great of a hitter as he is, imagine if he was only focusing on hitting.
Oh, I know.
Right? So, I mean, he's batting 300, going to hit over 50 home runs, assuming he plays the rest of the year, going to hit over 50 home runs. Imagine if that was the only thing he's focusing on. You tell me that he can't bat 310 with 58 home runs and 45 stolen bases and 120 RBIs. that sounds like a $400 million guy.
Yeah, that's doable. What's the wrinkle?
The wrinkle is whomever should sign him should talk to him and tell him you're no longer a starting pitcher. You're one of our closers. You're going to rotate as a closer for us.
Oh, I like that.
That's the wrinkle. And I actually pitched this idea. I was talking to a bunch of the MLB Network people, and I was not shot down. Like former baseball players are like, kind of like it if he is on board. It would all be if him and his people are on board for him moving that way.
Not terrible. I like that.
Think about the career extension you got out of John Smoltz. He went from a starter to a closer and extended his career, and he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah,
and I like that. I like that idea. If Ohtani would be up for it, and maybe less wear and tear on the arm, obviously, and I have little doubt that he would be successful as a closer. Like the mentality of Ohtani, I don't think he steps on the field with any fear whatsoever. I've never met him, never been around him. Just reading the stuff and the reports that you see about Shohei Ohtani, I don't think he steps on the baseball diamond in the fear of not being able to accomplish anything. So that's why it's a shame that the Angels have not been able to, be a playoff team, and we've not seen them on the bigger stage as compared to the regular season. You did a little bit in the WBC, but I think that's a hell of an idea. I kind of like that.
Yeah, so we'll see how that one plays out. I would love to see him get an opportunity to continue to thrive. I like the fact that he's sitting there and saying, I'm going to continue to. I will say one thing that was mishandled in all of this, and again, I'm not a doctor, but the minute he was having arm fatigue, I don't know why he continued to pitch. And I know it's hindsight 2020, except for the fact that we said it actually on Better's Eye about 3 weeks ago. Stop pitching him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
we nailed
he ends
one.
up having the UCL tear. We'll come back. We're going to play a game of this or that. We'll get into a little bit of the Yankees as well. Antwan Staley from the Daily News covers the New York Jets is going to join Keith and myself in hour number 2 as well. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Marc Malusis. It's the Friday edition of Moose and Keith right here on the Better Sports Network.
So let's get into some best ball philosophy here.
Yeah.
In your experience, going back many, many, many years, drafting in national tournaments, Bradley, have you historically been shying away from the running back position in favor of wide receivers? In favor of, if you're drafting in the FFPC tight end premium format, in favor of tight ends as well. Is that the smart play when you're drafting this early in the drafting season?
Yeah, so taking value is going to be huge, and looking at like running backs and wide receivers, like you want to take a look at how the structure is. So you mentioned earlier the FFPC has a couple different types, like they've got super flex and one quarterback, and so that's going to change your strategy a little bit if you have only 2 wide receivers or if you're drafting 3 wide receivers. And of course, the PPR is a different aspect compared to other formats or other tournaments. And so keeping in mind the pass catching upside of some of the running backs may be more valuable in those formats. So the Austin Ecklers, the Christian McCaffreys may be more value because they get more receptions, and so like I loved taking late shots a couple years ago on like the JD McKissicks of the world who would get 50 receptions really cheaply. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to like overall value, like you're in the middle of a draft and you just notice that, I don't know, maybe it's Chris Godwin has fallen 14 spots, but Chris Godwin was not in your plans to be drafting. Like maybe you don't have a strong player take on Chris Godwin, or my take is that I don't think the Bucs are going to be particularly good this year. But for him to be dropping, let's say 14 spots is more than a full round. And based on the data that we've seen, if you get to draft a player more than 12 spots ahead or behind ADP, so they drop 12 or more spots, you have an 84% edge over the rest of the tournament players who are drafting this player. Because typically this player isn't going to drop. The average draft position is a really strong indicator of where a player is going to go. And I think that is also on the flip side. If you are reaching too much, you're giving up value in your drafts. And so when it comes to value-based drafting, you need to consider, just because this guy isn't my plans or I don't have a strong player take on him, maybe that's your opportunity to sprinkle in some shares of this player at a good price.
You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. I think you get with this, because this is where it's at.
Engine number
Number
9
on the New York Transit line.
If my train goes off the track, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
That's a great song. I
Oh,
love that.
fantastic. Who sang it?
Tribe Called No.
No, Black Sheep.
Black Sheep, thank you.
Remember in the video?
We're the black sheep. You're the black sheep.
Yeah, and they were doing this the whole time.
Yes, it's great. Yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic. All right, so today Heather Klein is producing the show. Bernsey is out, so we not out for good, just out for this week. We bring in Heather Klein, and Heather will. She has a little game for us. She built that. The this or that. This is her brainchild. So. It better be amazing, otherwise you owe us 2 laps. Not 1 lap, 2 laps. I'm just saying, no pressure.
I know.
Morning.
Thanks. No pressure.
No pressure. There you go.
All right, so how are we going to do this? What are we doing with this?
Okay, so based on a 12-team PPR fantasy draft format,
okay,
you are going to pick quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, and you're going to pick between 2 guys, close in ADP, and then a value play for each position.
Nice.
So
Okay.
do you want to, let's start with quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Okay, this or that. Close in ADP, Justin Herbert at 6 or Trevor Lawrence at 8.
You want to go first?
You go first.
Go ahead. All right. I'll go first. I'll take Trevor Lawrence all day, every day. Listen, I love the LA Chargers and the potential there in what they have. And Justin Herbert is probably going to throw close to 5,000 yards. The 2-round difference for me, which essentially is what I might get, or at least the two pick difference for me in the quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to be astronomically better than last year. And he was one of the best quarterbacks in the final third of the regular season. You add in Calvin Ridley, another season of Travis Etienne, another season of being on a real team with real coaches. Bye-bye, Urban Meyer. Give me Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, for everything that you just said, Calvin Ridley, throw him into the mix. Peterson understands what he's doing. It's amazing. What a difference a coaching staff and being well coached can do. Going from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson down there in Jacksonville. You're looking at the difference in the rounds. I love Herbert. I do. And I do think the change of the offensive coordinator is going to work in Los Angeles. Who doesn't love Justin Herbert? Everybody. He's built like a Greek god. I mean, that's it. And he's got a ton of receivers to be able to throw to, even though those guys have not necessarily been the epitome of health. I do think offensively he's going to put up a ton of numbers. But I think Lawrence, we've seen the beginning of a superstar on the rise in Trevor Lawrence with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And everything we thought about Trevor Lawrence after his freshman season at Clemson is going to ring true in the National Football League. So I would take Trevor Lawrence in round 8.
I'm gonna jump in here because I'm the follically challenged one, and you guys both have wonderful hair. So if I had to do this for you guys, which would you draft in the hair draft? Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence?
Herbert.
You like Herbert?
I do.
I think Heather's gonna go Trevor Lawrence the way she just flicked her hair back.
I think Herbert's got thicker hair.
Yeah. Okay.
Like Trevor Lawrence has got longer hair.
I would say the same thing, Mark. Yeah. I
think Justin Herbert's got it's basically he's got like a bush of hair. Like I think Trevor Lawrence is I could see Lawrence's hair later on in his career where he's got to go short because it's starting to thin out a little.
Thin out, right? He doesn't have that Troy Polamalu,
No,
right?
right, exactly right. So I could see that later on in his career.
I'll take either of theirs. I'll just put it right over here.
You would.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, what's your so now you want to take us to all right, so Heather, do you want to go all close in ADPs for every position, or you want to go ping pong with close and then value plays? Your choice.
Let's go close then value plays so we can knock out each position individually. So value play, Joe Burrow at 5 or wait for Kirk Cousins at 13?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. I'll take Cousins at 13. I love
what?
Burrow. I would.
That's your guy.
I love Joe Burrow. I know I love Joe Burrow, but I do know this. Here's I got Justin Jefferson up in Minnesota. I know you got Jamar Chase with the. I know you got Jamar Chase with the Cincinnati Bengals, and you've got obviously Burrow is unbelievable. He's dealing with obviously a little bit of a leg injury. We've seen that. We saw that happen early on in training camp. Cousins is a guy fantasy wise. If you're looking at, they're going to throw. I mean, they're going to continue to throw up there in Minnesota. They really are. And I like, Addison. You've talked about Addison as a rookie wide receiver up there in Minnesota. We know how good Justin Jefferson is as a wide receiver. You know that their head coach is going to want to continue to throw the football. This is not the ground and pound with Mike Zimmer and Dalvin Cook. They're putting the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands. You're looking at a disparity of a 5th-round pick as compared to a 13th-round pick. I think a 13th-round pick, I'm not telling you I don't love Joe Burrow. I do. But I think I can get really good value from fantasy quarterback position with Kirk Cousins at 13.
Heather, just for our own clarification, I just want to double check the numbers you have there. So 5 for Burrow, 13 for Cousins. Are you saying 5th round for Burrow and 13th round for Cousins? Or are you saying the ADP as in Burrow's the 5th quarterback off the board and Cousins is the 13th off the board? Just want a clarification there.
Yes, ADP based. So Burrow off the board at 5,
Gotcha.
Cousins 13, quarterback.
All right, so Cousins 13th quarterback, realistically probably not going to go 13th round. So
Gotcha.
I only wanted that clarification because I wanted to see if that changes your thought. So if Cousins was there,
Well, 13. What round do you think Cousins is going in?
10th round.
All right, so I would still take Cousins in the 10th.
That's all right. Cool. That's good. I just wanted that clarification there. I would go Burrow because my train of thought is this. Kirk Cousins, and I can give you a really sexy stat that'll make you want Kirk Cousins. You know that Kirk Cousins over the last 5 years has finished in the top 12 in touchdowns thrown per game. Ooh, real sexy. But for me, Cousins is just very vanilla as a quarterback. And in a passing league, I need one of the top 7 or 8 QBs. So I'm not going past Trevor Lawrence. I need Trevor Lawrence or better on my roster. So I'll go with Joe Burrow.
All right, let's go to running back. Close in ADP. Tony Pollard, ADP of 4, or Nick Chubb at ADP of 6.
That's good because let's flesh it out. Because really, 4 and 6 isn't that big of a difference. It's a reason why you're doing this. It's a reason why you're putting our feet to the fire here. So Tony Pollard, when healthy last year, when he was basically supplanting Ezekiel Elliott, was a top 3 running back in fantasy. Okay. Obviously coming off the injury, we believe he's going to be healthy. Offensive line is not as good as it has been in the past. Lots of question marks about Dak Prescott. I think for the 2 ADP difference, meaning if you're getting Pollard at the end of the 1st round, or you can get Chubb 5 picks into the 2nd round, I will go Chubb.
Yeah, I would take Nick Chubb as well. And coming off a year in which he had 12 touchdowns, 1,500 yards receiving, and let's be honest, I mean, he did all 1,500 yards rushing, and let's be honest, he did that all with really, really inconsistent quarterback play. If we go on what we were talking about earlier in the show, and Deshaun Watson is able to kind of refine himself and be the quarterback that he was with the Houston Texans, and then defenses have to be honest to what he can do throwing the football, I think it even opens things up even a little bit more for Nick Chubb. So when you're comparing the two, love Tony Pollard. He's been probably the better running back as compared to Ezekiel Elliott, who's now with the New England Patriots for the last 2 years. We've all talked about that. Fantasy players have talked about that. Love Tony Pollard as a running back. I would take Nick Chubb.
Yep.
Okay, let's go to our value plays. So do you go high on Austin Eckler at 2? Or do you go Najee Harris at 12? And this is all ADP.
Why? You got to go Keith's guy, Najee Harris. Last year, you talked about him time and time again. His kids are drafting him in fantasy leagues in the 1st round. Yeah, I think last year you saw when Najee Harris started to get healthy toward the tail end of the year, you saw a better performing, more productive fantasy player in Najee Harris. And I think he's one of those guys that last year, I think there was maybe a little bit too much heat on him, even though I know, Keith's great with fantasy stuff. I think this year he's flying under the radar a little bit. I would rather take the run with Najee Harris at 12 than Eckler at 2.
Yeah, when Najee Harris was healthy last year for the, again, and I like to break the season up into thirds with certain guys. Najee Harris, the final third of the season, was a top 10 fantasy running back. So I would go Najee Harris here with that 12 ADP clearly. And one of the reasons why I would do it, it's not an indictment on Austin Eckler by any stretch of the imagination. He's an absolute stud. But in order to get Austin Eckler, you're going to have to draft him in the top 5 in the first round. So I would say it this way. If I get Eckler at pick number 3, 4, or 5, right? Or I get Najee Harris in the third round, what's my team going to look like in the better sense? Is it going to be better if I have Eckler using that draft capital in the first round and then having to get like Amari Cooper in the third or fourth round, right? So if you have Eckler and Cooper, I think you're happy, but are you happier if you end up with Jamar Chase and Najee Harris?
Yeah, I think you're happier with Jamar Chase and Najee Harris.
So that's how I would decipher that. I always try to play out my draft. And again, our draft boards, we'll go into a draft. I got multiple drafts coming up this weekend, like too many drafts this weekend. I'm going to have to try to figure out my timing with like family life too. I might actually let my older son, Austin, draft one of my teams this year and just see how he does. But anyway, like you're going to have a draft board. You're going to have targets, but someone's going to throw a wrinkle. But if no wrinkles happen, I would rather end up with Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, or Christian McCaffrey, Najee Harris, then end up with Eckler and maybe like an Amari.
All right, let's move on to wide receiver.
All right, close in ADP, Garrett Wilson or T. Higgins, 10 and 14 respectively.
Yeah, I would take Wilson. I mean, I would take Wilson and Wilson all day. I think, and as compared to T. Higgins, and I like Higgins in Cincinnati. Chase is the guy in Cincinnati, though. When you look at and comparing the two, and you look at Garrett Wilson, the comparisons Rodgers has made to him as a route runner to Devontae Adams couldn't be higher praise. I think the offensive line getting Dwayne Brown back off the PUP list this week for the Jets helps and solidify that left tackle spot, even though he's up there in age. Mekhi Becton's going to be starting at right tackle on Saturday when they take on the Giants in their final preseason game. To me, I'm goo gaga for Garrett Wilson, so I would take Wilson at 14. Wilson at 10,
I kind of am too, and I don't want this. Yeah, Garrett Wilson with the 10. And actually, some of the numbers I've seen, I know we go by different, you got Fantasy Alarm, got a bunch of different places. I've seen Garrett Wilson started to go late first round, early second round in a lot of drafts. It is the hard knocks factor where the Jets are being thrown into our views. Everyone's watching and everyone's falling in love with Garrett Wilson. But I think that Garrett Wilson has the chance to be one of the 3 or 4 top fantasy performers this year for wide receivers when all is said and done. I think Aaron Rodgers will turn back the clock a little bit. He is the one, and that's the difference too. Wilson is the number 1 wide receiver. T. Higgins is technically the number 2 wide receiver on his own roster. I'll go with Wilson.
All right, value play. Stephon Diggs at 5 or DK Metcalf at 16?
This one's simple. It's Metcalf. Stephon Diggs is disgruntled. He is a top 7. He has finished as a top 7 fantasy wide receiver in 7 consecutive. It's either 6 or 7 consecutive seasons. He's great at football, but we know he's a little bit disgruntled. So we don't know what that will do. He's awesome. But if he's coming off the board at number 5, or you can give me DK Metcalf with the, Geno Smith found the fountain of youth last year. DK Metcalf is everything that we all want to look like as well. He's a fantasy stud. Give me DK at 16.
Yeah, I would take Metcalf as well. I think the answer is pretty agreed. I think when you're looking at value, everything Keith mentioned about Stephon Diggs, and 16th with DK Metcalf, no doubt about it. All right, how about tight end, Heather?
All right, close in ADP. Darren Waller at 4 or Evan Ingram at 8?
Oh, you Giants fans!
Yeah, I'd take Waller.
Have fun with this one. Moose, you go first.
I would take Waller. I mean, I think he's going to be great. I mean, I just do. I think Darren Waller is going to be great. I think he's going to help out Daniel Jones. I think he's going to be a guy that can spread the field. He's a unicorn, as John Gruden described him with the Raiders a long time ago. The question is, can he stay healthy? I know the Raiders grew frustrated with that, so that's the gamble. I think if he's healthy, he's going to be remarkably productive.
If Waller is healthy, I think he catches 85 footballs this year. And if he's catching 85 footballs, I want him on my roster. I don't typically, unless it's Kelsey, I'm not drafting tight ends early. So more than likely, I won't have any shares of Darren Waller. I think he's going to go too early for me. So more than likely for Keith Irizarry, he will end up with Evan Ingram.
All right, how about the value play, Heather?
And then the value play, TJ Hawkinson at 3 or Cole Kmet at 14.
Advantage push. I don't really care for either right now. I'm not that in on Cole Kmet. He struggled to get touchdowns last year. I'm not sure what his role fully is in that offense. They actually have a glut of wide receivers now, a lot for Justin Fields to try to, share the ball. Also, we know that Justin Fields wasn't really a thrower last year. He was more of a runner that threw when he needed to throw. I guess I would lean Hawkinson, but I'm not taking Hawkinson at ADP 3, which means I'm going to have to take him in the top 4 or 5 rounds. So more than likely I'd end up with Kmet here, but I would actually turn towards like some of the rookies, like a Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, I like Hawkinson
later.
more
And I
than
know
Keith
I just do
does a little bit. But I don't know if I necessarily am drafting him that high and where he's going to go. If you're telling me that, and I would draft Darren Waller ahead of TJ Hawkinson, to be perfectly honest with you. I would. I think Waller's going to be really good this year, and it's just not my love affair with Waller and the Giants. It's just a case of I think the inclusion of the speed factor is going to be. I don't know what Kmet's role is with the Chicago Bears. And say Keith's right. What we talked about earlier. Say the Chicago Bears had Jonathan Taylor. And then you got Fields, you've got Taylor, you've got obviously DJ Moore. How much love is Cole Kmet going to be getting at the tight end spot?
Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. I mean, they're real players.
So how much love are you going down the line now? You look at Hawkinson, you say, well, I talked up Kirk Cousins a little bit earlier on. TJ Hawkinson's going to be a guy that's going to get some balls that are going to be thrown his way. Is it going to be to the level of being an elite level tight end? I don't know if it necessarily is going to be that. There you have it. Heather, great job.
Thanks, guys. That was a lot of fun.
You got it.
You know what else is fun? She's not going anywhere. We have another segment coming
up. Yes, BS
joins
Detector. Yes, that's exactly right.
Looking forward to it.
He's Keith Irizarry. I'm Marc Malusis. Get out the bullhorn. Beautiful. Love it. It's a Friday edition of Moose and Keith right here on the Better Sports Network.
So let's get into some best ball philosophy here.
Yeah.
In your experience, going back many, many, many years, drafting in national tournaments, Bradley, have you historically been shying away from the running back position in favor of wide receivers? In favor of, if you're drafting in the FFPC tight end premium format, in favor of tight ends as well. Is that the smart play when you're drafting this early in the drafting season?
Yeah, so taking value is going to be huge, and looking at like running backs and wide receivers, like you want to take a look at how the structure is. So you mentioned earlier the FFPC has a couple different types, like they've got super flex and one quarterback, and so that's going to change your strategy a little bit if you have only 2 wide receivers or if you're drafting 3 wide receivers. And of course, the PPR is a different aspect compared to other formats or other tournaments. And so keeping in mind the pass catching upside of some of the running backs may be more valuable in those formats. So the Austin Ecklers, the Christian McCaffreys may be more valuable because they get more receptions, and so like I loved taking late shots a couple of years ago on like the JD McKissicks of the world, who would get 50 receptions really cheaply. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to like overall value, like you're in the middle of a draft, and you just noticed that, I don't know, maybe it's Chris Godwin has fallen 14 spots, but Chris Godwin was not in your plans to be drafting. Like maybe you don't have a strong player take on Chris Godwin, or my take is that I don't think the Bucs are going to be particularly good this year. But for him to be dropping, let's say 14 spots is more than a full round. And based on the data that we've seen, if you get to draft a player more than 12 spots ahead or behind ADP, so they drop 12 or more spots, you have an 84% edge over the rest of the tournament players who are drafting this player, because typically this player isn't going to drop. the average draft position is a really strong indicator of where a player is going to go. And I think that is also on the flip side. If you are reaching too much, you're giving up value in your drafts. And so when it comes to value-based drafting, you need to consider, just because this guy is in my plans or I don't have a strong player take on him, maybe that's your opportunity to sprinkle in some shares of this player at a good price.
Marc Malusis and
We are
Keith
back.
Irizarry. We are here on a Friday morning. It's 11:22 a.m. Eastern
That's
Time. Marc Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
Let's get into a little
Keith.
BS detector right now. Antwan, we're going to talk a little Jets coming your way next segment and get a little feel of what is the biggest storyline in the National Football League, and that is Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Antwan Staley is going to join us from the New York Daily News. Let's welcome back our producer for this Friday, and that is Heather, who rejoins us for a little bit of game of BS Detector after we went through a game of this or that. So what do we got today on this Friday for BS Detector, Heather? Yes.
Ooh, can I raise my hand? Teacher, can I speak? Did we like my jingle there? Like, can we all acknowledge that
on short
was
notice, that was fantastic.
Yeah. It was on the fly. I think that was good.
I mean,
it was groovy.
Guys, I'm just trying to say groovy is a great word. I'm just trying to say that, do I have a backup career as a jingle writer?
Maybe.
I would need to see more samples.
Thank you.
I need to see more evidence. The jury's still out on that.
No, that's not nice.
All right, what do we got?
Anyway.
Was that BS or not, though?
That's it.
Oh, I see what you did there. All right. Give us a story here and we'll
okay. Okay. Comedian and actor Kevin Hart made the foolish decision to race former running back Stephen Ridley in a 40-yard dash. He not only lost, but he also tore multiple muscles in his abdomen and is now confined to a wheelchair for the next 6 to 8 weeks. BS or not?
It's not BS. I actually saw this story. Sorry, I did. I watched the video as well. Actually, my older son, Austin, showed it to me yesterday. Yeah, so Kevin Hart in the video, Moose, did you see the video?
I did not. I just saw the story.
Okay. So in the video, he's like staring at the camera. You don't see anything else. And he just starts talking about like the age of 40 is real, right? And I guess he's 43 or 44 years old, actually. But that he made a stupid decision to talk about how fast he was. He's like, I'm fast, I'm fast. And he decided to race Stephen Ridley. And at the end of the 40-yard dash, he basically ripped every muscle in his lower abs. And he will not be able to walk now for multiple weeks. He is stuck in a wheelchair. And he was basically saying, what are we trying to prove here in our 40s? Let's just not try to prove things anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it stakes. It shows you, the difference. And he's actually in pretty good shape too, as well. Yeah.
He's in excellent shape.
Just tearing everything in your abdomen. Got to be
I had a friend that raced.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just tell you, Kevin Hart and I are basically the same person.
I can see it.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
you said you had a friend. Go ahead.
What
happened? Sorry. I don't know what happened. No, I was just saying my friend, we're also in our 40s, and a friend of mine actually tried to race these younger coworkers and pulled his hammy racing. So it's not very easy once we get over 40, right?
No, it's not.
It's not. All right. I'm not going to say who the person was. So this was last fall. We were at a flag football game, right? There was a mom there, and I would say that she is probably on the younger side. So if most of the parents in our age group are like 38 to 45, probably, right? It's a second marriage. So she is probably more like 32, 33 years old, physically fit woman, right? She started talking about how fast she was and she was like, I'm going to race some of the boys, right? And now these are 10 and 11-year-old boys, right? And all like good athletes. She gets ready to go. She takes like 3 steps, wipes out, and like just bites it. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen. She wasn't injured.
Oh, there you go. Very nice. I love
it. Was
that.
pretty funny.
That sounds amazing. As long as she's okay. As long as she's okay.
She was fine. She didn't get hurt. It was just a little pride, little ego.
Absolutely.
What's next, Heather?
All right. After Anthony Richardson mocked the Eagles fans with the Fly Eagles Fly touchdown celebration yesterday, Jalen Hurts took to Twitter and said, "We'll chop that rookie's wings off by year's end." BS or not?
I think that's BS. I don't think Jalen Hurts would ever go on Twitter and say that.
I feel like I would know this too. So I'm going to say Moose is right. That's BS. Jalen Hurts did not go to social media and say that.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so there you go. BS. Yeah.
He wouldn't say
Anthony
that.
Richardson, by the way, 6 of 17 last night against the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, what's next, Heather?
All right. Sources confirm that the MLS commissioner, Don Garber, has received several calls from Major League Soccer parents saying that Leo Messi is just too talented for the league, and they're saddened that their sons are intimidated by Messi and is unstoppable. BS or not?
That has to be BS, right? Like that. What? Listen. If that's not BS, what world are we living in right now? It's a professional
That's
sports
BS.
league. Come on.
You are correct.
Oh, there you go. Messi is unbelievable. He's going to be in Jersey this weekend, and Harrison taking on the Red Bulls. No, I'm not.
You going?
But that isn't.
Okay. We bought Alex got a Messi jersey when we were in.
Oh, that's great.
In Greece or Turkey.
We haven't gotten into the vacations yet. All right, wouldn't that?
Yeah, I think we'll do it after the
Last one, Heather. What do you got?
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys Jerry Jones addressed defensive end Sam Williams' latest arrest and said his arrest will not impact him being on the field, and that he's matured because he was speeding only 35 miles per hour less than last season.
That is true. That is true. I did read this story. That is true.
How? I know it's true, but it
shouldn't be.
Right.
I mean, it's just Jerry
That's
Jones
right.
being Jerry Jones.
Could you imagine? All right, so Moose, let's say what you tell one of your sons that they're not allowed to have any chocolate chip cookies, right? And I'm just gonna make it Gregory right now. You tell Gregory, hey Gregory, you can't have any chocolate chip cookies tomorrow. He eats 5 chocolate chip cookies tomorrow, right? And you and Donna go, Gregory, you can't have any more chocolate chip cookies. And then on Sunday night, he goes, guys, I ate a chocolate chip cookie, but it was only one. But we told you can't have one. You can't have any. No. But it was only one. Don't worry, Dad. Don't worry.
No,
Mom.
it's
Come on.
it's amazing. Well, it's excuse making. It's amazing what talent can do.
It is.
Yes.
Yep. It is. Yes. All
Good
right.
job, Heather.
Heather, great stuff. Yeah, that was good. Lots of
No BS, no BS.
You know what? You know how to sling the BS.
That's it. Antwan Staley is going to join us next from the New York Daily News, talk a little Jet football. He joins the program. Heather, great job as always. Keith Arizari. I'm Marc Malusis. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Friday right here, Better Sports Network.
Breece Hall right now, and I've talked to plenty of high-stakes players. I'm sure you have too, Kev. Had Hall not torn his ACL last year, he might have been the 101 in drafts this year. That's how good he was looking last year, and obviously with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. At the 305, running back 11 behind Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson, right ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs and Najee Harris. Your thoughts on him as a mid-third round pick? How have you been attacking him? Have you been getting him at that spot so far this year?
Yeah, if I start out with 2 wide receivers, Breece Hall is right at the top of the queue coming into the third. If I knew he'd be healthy for week 1, I was still a little.
Well, he'd be going higher than than the mid third.
Right. He may go 101. Well, RB1 at least.
Yeah.
But I don't think we know that even if he's healthy in spring and the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I still like if I'm running a team, if I'm the coach, I'm bringing him back slow. Like he's on a pitch count. Like I want him for the end of the season because I got Aaron Rodgers for the playoffs, right? Like even if he's fully healthy, I would work him in slow. But that is actually what you want. Like he's still going to get the high value touches. So yeah, if we know he's healthy, he's a first rounder. So like if he's sitting there in the third, especially when I get 2 wide receivers to start, I'll take Hall all day.
Yeah, it almost makes me think that the uncertainty with Breece Hall has made him unfairly fall too far, right? Like because we're talking about the team here in June. They're still hoping that he's ready for week 1. This is not, oh, we'll see what happens. Oh, we're taking it day by day. Oh, we're liking how he's coming along. No, they still think by week 1. And the fact that we have that timeline, I think, maybe bumps him up, especially as the drafting season gets deeper and deeper here in July and August. Maybe we start seeing him go up the boards as well.
All right, welcome back. It's Moose and Keith with you on this Friday on the Better Sports Network. Jets have been a huge storyline throughout the course of the National Football League, obviously on Hard Knocks. They play their preseason finale against the Giants on Saturday night out at MetLife Stadium. Let's welcome aboard right now. I believe he's with us, Antwan Staley from the New York Daily News. Hey, Antwan, Marc Malusis and Keith Irizarry with you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, it's good to be with y'all.
What are you looking at?
How you doing, man?
We're good. We're looking forward to the start of the NFL regular season, especially here in New York after watching the Mets and the Yankees this summer. Against the Jets and the Giants. I'll tell you that. What are you looking for tomorrow night with Rodgers going to play for the Jets?
This kind of coincides with an article I just came out with too. So obviously, you want to see how Rodgers, continues to build that chemistry with his receivers and also his offense as well. The offensive line has been kind of a makeshift unit throughout the course of training camp, where Dwayne Brown is just returning to practice. Elijah Vera Tucker, Lincoln Tomlinson has missed time due to injury, and the right tackle position has kind of been rotational spot with Max Mitchell and also Billy Turner, and now Mekhi Becton has become a starter there. So yeah, you just want to see him continue to gel and get some rhythm going, especially heading into 2 weeks from now. They're going to play Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football, and that's what the point of them starting tomorrow is, so he can gain that chemistry and rhythm, and that won't be the first time he will be in MetLife Stadium when he plays the Bills, so everything won't be overwhelming for him.
Antwan, you're around this team day in and day out. And obviously Aaron Rodgers is the story, no matter how you slice it. Just what's kind of the vibe about him being in that locker room, how he's meshing with a lot of people that are, sometimes 15, 20
Yeah, I
years younger than
mean, he's really a kid at heart. I think that's the thing I've heard players say, that he's a jokester. He likes to joke around, talks about music a little bit. I actually asked him about, hip hop and things like that too. He's making requests to the DJ for certain songs and joking around with guys like Quentin Williams, Garrett Wilson. And yeah, I think they obviously know he's an older guy, but at the same time, he's just become one of the guys as well. And I think, he's getting to know all of the players. It's not just, the superstar players or the players that make the most money, from 1 to 53 or 1 to 90, I guess in this case now with training camp. He's getting to know all of these guys and really integrated himself into the roster really well since April when he was acquired.
Antwan, if you had a guess right now, who the starting 5 for the Jets up front along that offensive line, who do you think it is?
Dwayne Brown at left tackle, Lincoln Tomlinson at left guard, Connor McGovern, who, although they did take Joe Tippin in the second round from Wisconsin, I think they're going to go with Connor just to start out with because he's a veteran. He started all 17 games. He's really the only consistent player on the Jets offensive line all of last year. So you have him at the center, have Elijah Vera Tucker returning back from his season-ending injury at right guard, and then I think you'll have Mekhi Becton at right tackle, which he's starting to show a lot of promise in the games that he's played in throughout the course of the preseason.
All right. Is that good enough? You think that group is good enough? I'm sorry, Keith, to jump you. Okay.
No, I was going to ask the same thing. There you go.
Antwan, do you think that group is good enough?
I think they could be average to above average, and I think that's good enough to get you to the playoffs. I don't know if it's good enough to win a Super Bowl, but I think you look at the teams in the AFC East. I think all of them have offensive line issues. I think Buffalo has offensive line issues with Josh Allen and also Stephon Diggs. You look at Miami; their line might be even worse than the Jets, although they do have Teron Armstead, who is really an anchor of their offensive line. But without him, I mean, it gets real murky after that. So, and then the Patriots, the Patriots have probably the best offensive line out of any of the teams in the AFC East, but they have quarterback issues with Matt Jones. So I think, the Jets are in a good place there. It's just about, gaining that rapport and chemistry and gelling quickly because they hadn't really done that throughout the course of training camp. And now you're asking these guys really to get ready and ramped up in 2 weeks.
Rodgers, offensive line. Now let's go to the running back situation. How do you feel?
I think, you having a guy like Brees Hall who's coming off an ACL tear less than a year from it, 10 months removed from it. I think you want to just, ease him into the frame too as well. You don't necessarily want to give him a full load. That's why you go out and get a guy like a Dalvin Cook to help take pressure off of him. And we saw the Jets running game without Brees Hall last year. Granted, there was a lot of factors that, went into that. Obviously, the quarterback situation wasn't great for the Jets. And also, Elijah Vera Tucker was probably the best offensive player last year. He goes down in the same game as Brees, and they average 70 yards per game rushing. And the Jets know that. That's why you go out and get a guy like a Dalvin Cook who, doesn't necessarily need to carry the ball 30 times per game. They're not going to ask him to do that, but they're going to ask him to make explosive plays, whether he's in the passing game or also the running game. And I know he's working his way back, also coming, being recently signed and not necessarily playing and having a training camp too as well. So it's a big question of how many carries both of those guys are going to get week 1 against Buffalo. But yeah, I think it's going to be kind of even out. I think it's going to be more Dalvin to start out with. And then as the season goes on, I think you'll see more Brees as that knee gets stronger and stronger.
Passing game, what is the retirement of Corey Davis due to that receivers room?
It hurts the depth because I think their Jets were really relying on him to kind of be that 3rd or 4th wide receiver. And now, I mean, yeah, you have Randall Cobb, you have McCole Hartman, Alan Lazard, and obviously, Garrett Wilson. But, if you want to keep 6 receivers on this team, I think it becomes a little bit murky because now you got, young guys, got Alex Erickson, who has some experience in the league, but, primary as a returner, and Malik Taylor also plays some time with the Packers, but also his background is also special teams as well. So I definitely could see them maybe like lurking the waiver wire once the 53-man roster is, finally comes together and see what everybody else, see who's released some players and probably maybe made an addition there before the season starts.
Antwan, you got Sauce Gardner, you got Quinnen Williams, 2 of the best at their positions. Elsewhere on that defensive side, who are some of the other names that maybe Jets fans should really be focusing on?
Also got C.J. Mosley, too, who's also, the A's one, also was a 2nd-team All-Pro last year. I think, DJ Reed is somebody that's really under the radar still. I thought he was one of the best cornerbacks in football last year, but when you have a guy like Sauce Gardner to come in and take the lead by storm as a rookie, you kind of get overshadowed a little bit there. But I think DJ Reed, also Michael Carter II, I think he's one of the better slot corners in the game. So I think having him on there will speak dividend. And Jermaine Johnson's had a tremendous training camp. I think a lot of people saw him, the explosive as he was coming out of Florida State there. Probably was a lot of people thought he'd be a top 10 pick in the draft, and those sliding down to later on in the first round of 2022. I think you could see, especially with Carl Lawson's status undetermined for week 1, he might get the start and, might not look back because I think he's looked that tremendous in camp. Looks like the player that we saw at FSU when he was dominating and won Defensive Player of the Year in the conference.
Do you think the Jets, as all the focus is on Rodgers and the offense, Antwan, do you think the Jets have that opportunity to have the best defense in the NFL?
Yeah, I think so too. I think, they finished 4th in total yards and points last year. I know some people, their pundits may say, well, they played a lot of backup quarterbacks, but that's not necessarily their fault. They were also put in bad positions by the quarterback spot with Zach Wilson, and they still finished, a top 5 defense. I think now having a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you will be put in better spots as a defense, and you won't be as wore down as they were later on in the season. But yeah, this defensive line, I think, is up there with the Eagles and the 49ers as the best in the league. And I think that's what's going to anchor this defense there. And then anytime you have 2 cornerbacks like Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, who can just put receivers on the island, I think, you have a chance to be the very best in the league.
Antwan, your career has taken you a lot of different places. You've covered the Dolphins, you've covered, college football. You've done a lot of stuff. You and I have known each other for a while. Actually, so long that when we first met, I don't think we were calling you Antwan. I think we were calling you Twan. I don't think, am I?
Well,
for the
my
most part, I
my
felt like we were
nickname,
calling you Twan.
if people call me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
either way.
exactly. Take us through the AFC East, and it is a division that you know very well. So you cover the Jets day in and day out. Let's go Bills first. What if you're a Jets fan would scare
Well,
you about
obviously
the Buffalo
Josh Allen.
Bills?
I think that's it's pretty simple there. And then they have a good defense too. I think the thing about their defense, they lost Tremaine Edmonds, which I think is a big loss for them. But they also get Jordan Poyer and Michael Hyde back healthy, and also Trey White too in the secondary. So that'll help their defense a lot as well. But yeah, I think obviously having a guy like Josh Allen will always have a window to win a Super Bowl there in Buffalo.
Dolphins?
That explosive offense, it's like basketball on grass, basically, especially with the receivers with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and it go along with two. If Tua stays healthy for 17 games, and obviously that's a big if, not even concussions aside, even before that he had injury concerns. I think the Dolphins have a really good shot to win the division, and they pick up Vic Fangio, who's a defensive wizard, to also improve that unit as well.
And just the Patriots.
Well coached. Offensive line is real good. Defense is really, I think Matthew Judon is going to have an opportunity to be in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. But obviously, Matt Jones needs to play a lot better. I think getting Bill O'Brien there will really help his game too. Whatever you want to say about Bill O'Brien in Houston, they won a lot of games there. Like, it was just when he became an executive, I think things started to go south. But a tremendous coach, and I think the Patriots might be better than what some people think.
What do you think the realistic expectations this year for the Jets is? What, Antwan? Like, where do you think the ceiling is for the Jets this year?
Playoffs, wild card, maybe the division. I think they can win the division, win a playoff game, and then after that, we'll see. I still think Kansas City and Cincinnati are the class of the AFC. I think everybody else is trying to catch them. But if you can have Aaron Rodgers play 2 or 3 years, then you have an opportunity to possibly get that Super Bowl title. If not this year, maybe next year.
Antwan Staley, New York Daily News. Antwan, you're great. We appreciate it, and we love your work in the Daily News. And enjoy the preseason finale, and then the real grind begins.
Yes.
Really quickly, Antwan, you have a brand new podcast
on the
well,
Believe
correct?
Network too as well. They'll be talking about NFL and the Jets as well. So yeah, check me out. I'm actually doing the episode later today, so that'll be out tomorrow.
Nice.
So yeah, check me out on Believe Network. But yeah,
Beautiful.
thank y'all for having me.
You got it, Antwan. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us and taking the time out here on this Friday morning. Talk a little Jet football, and I think that's realistic when you look at the expectations for the Jets this year. We'll come back. We'll talk a little AFC East football, and also talk a little bit about our vacations as well. Why not? It's Moose and Keith with you. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis on a Friday right here, Better Sports Network.
Kendra Miller fan. He's running back 46 in the Fantasy Pros Championship right now at the end of the 11th round. I want you to talk a little bit about him from both standpoints. Number one, from redraft. He's in the backfield, same backfield as Alvin Kamara, who we talked about in the first hour, and then obviously Jamal Williams. But as far as dynasty goes too, what should you be doing now if you're a dunce like me and missed on Miller? What kind of offers should you be making for Kendra Miller in your dynasty leagues right now?
Well, the problem now is the news worked against you, right? In the sense that that there's a suspension looming. We don't know what that suspension is. So do you try to go after him prior to the suspension, or do you wait to see how long it is?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the higher the suspension is, the more expensive Kendra is going to be. It gives him an opportunity. We saw Kamara, you don't have to go farther than New Orleans. We saw Kamara take advantage. I remember they brought in Adrian Peterson. They had, what's his name? Mark Ingram.
Yep.
Right? And then they brought in Kamara, and everyone's like, there's no way Kamara's going to be relevant year one. And he smashed because talent comes through. These teams want to win now. They're going to put the best players out there. Kendra Miller comes off of a 1,400-yard season. Like, one thing for me, bulky in fantasy, is if you showed me you did it, I'm going to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
This whole upside thing where you've never done it, I'm over all of that. Like, tight end position I talk about often, that's why I don't invest in rookie tight ends. I'll pay the price for a Kelsey. I'll pay for a Kittle when I know they're going to smash for me, right? Running back, you're looking for talent. You're looking for proven. This guy's proved it. And progression. You look at his career in college, he's progressed every year in the receiving game, in the rushing game. There's something about when you watch him play, and sometimes it's not, I don't have a great stat for you or anything, but there's certain guys when I see him play, something kind of, and he's one of the guys when I started watching his tape and just seeing what he can do. I think he can be an all-around workhorse. He had 224 touches in his last season in college. So look, we talk about New Orleans. We don't know what this offense is going to look like. They have a new quarterback. They have everything, a whole new situation there. He could come in with Kamara out and just take over that backfield right away.
All right, Moose and Keith with you right here on this Friday, Better Sports Network. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to everyone in the chat session as well throughout the course of the morning. Let's get into a little AFC East breakdown, Keith. We did this, talked, I believe, about the NFC North a couple weeks ago. Last time we were on, we're going to do the AFC East trifecta. So, Keith, let's start with you. Division winner in the AFC East is who?
There's no value there. So essentially, you're just saying I'm going to double my money if I believe it. So why not? I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I think that they will have a good enough defense. Josh Allen, I think, is going to continue to take steps forward as an actual passer of the football. Gabe Davis is going to be better. Stephon Diggs is going to be fine. James Cook is going to be a better running back than they've had in the past. I throw all that out there to say plus 125, Bills win the division.
Plus 125, Bills win the division. I'm going to take a shot with the Miami Dolphins at 3-1.
Okay.
Plus 300. Thought about the Jets at plus 250, plus 275, depending on the sports book you're looking at. I agree with you that the Bills are the best division, the best team in the division. However, some factors with Miami. Obviously, the big one is being Tua, and getting to a little bit of a player prop with him a little bit later on when we talk about the AFC East. We just talked to Antwan Staley. He talked about it's kind of like fast court basketball in the National Football League. We know how speed kills. They've got a ton of it with Waddle and Tyreek Hill. How the visionary that Mike McDaniel is an offensive play caller. If Tua stays healthy, no reason to believe Miami can't win the division. Now, it's a big if. I understand that. But if I'm, we're all, gambling people in some, some shape or form, right? If you're looking at it, the value of it, there's no, I don't think realistically you can look at the New England Patriots and winning the division. I think all the value in Buffalo is gone. Yep. The Jets, I think there's going to be people and there's not much value there. You could easily make the argument that it's a 3-team race. Take the team with the best betting value, and that is the Miami Dolphins at plus 300.
I like that theory that you went with there. I think your theory makes a lot more betting sense. Mine would be the safe one. It's if I just believe the Bills are going to win, let me double my money.
I get it. No, and I understand that. If you love it, I'm not going to fault you for that. It's easy. And you might say, well, Buffalo is clearly going to win the division. I'm going to take the plus 1.25 and move on with my day. All right. Favorite player for fantasy from the AFC East?
You go first on this one.
Yeah, we're going to have the same guy. Because, I think we are going to have the same guy. My guy is Garrett Wilson from
I love
the Jets. Yeah, I love him as a player. And honestly, when the Jets drafted him, I really love Chris Olave, who ended up getting drafted by the New Orleans Saints coming out of Ohio State. Jets made the right pick. Wilson's a more dynamic player than Chris Olave is. And Wilson, I think if he stays healthy, look at what he was able to do last year as a receiver with, Joe Flacco.
Me and you throwing him the football.
Yeah, Joe Flacco, Mike White, and Zach Wilson at quarterback. Now you're throwing Aaron Rodgers into the mix, and as long as they're on the same page, he's already been compared by Rodgers to Devontae Adams as a route runner. That is an unbelievably high praise. He was the offensive rookie of the year last year in the National Football League. It's a receiver and passing league. It's a quarterback league. We know that. I think Garrett Wilson's probably my favorite fantasy player in the AFC East.
And I love the way you worded it. All right, so my answer is Garrett Wilson also. But let me do the argument against Garrett Wilson, and then I'm going to tell you why that argument is wrong, okay? So I've heard people say, well, Aaron Rodgers and Alan Lazard are buddies. Lazard is a great red zone target guy. Okay. Breece Hall will be healthy at some point. Dalvin Cook will be there. They're both going to be healthy. Mouths to feed. Offensive line isn't actually that great. Maybe Rodgers won't be able to get the ball to Garrett Wilson. All of that is hogwash. Garrett Wilson is the most talented offensive player on that roster with a quarterback that is trying to show the whole world, Green Bay Packers, that they made a mistake. Garrett Wilson is going to be, mark my words, barring anything catastrophic, Wilson will be a top 3 to top 5 fantasy point getter in fantasy football this year for wide receivers.
Love it. Love it. All right. Let's do a player prop. Futures bet, or I should say a futures bet. Favorite futures bet from the AFC East, Keith. You lead the way.
Okay, so I'm the player prop guy, but I'm going to go to team. And this actually maybe strengthens your argument for division winner. I'll take the Dolphins to win and go over the 9.5 wins, rather. They went 8-1 last year with a healthy Tua Tagovailoa. I think their team is as good, if not better, than it was last year. Now, I know the Jets are better. The Patriots should be better. So maybe they get tripped up by one of those teams at some point. But I think the Dolphins can win 10 games.
I like that. And it's all going on the health of Tua. My player prop, my favorite bet is going to be Tua Tagovailoa over 3,800.5 passing yards.
Well, that's great because he'll throw 2,000 to Tyreek. So there you go.
Well, that's it. You look at it last year. You want to look at it last year. 13 games, right? Had 259 completions, threw for 35-48 with 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Now, we know he was, not able to complete some of those games, not able to finish some of those games. And I think he could clearly pass that number of 3,800.5 passing yards. Now you're going on the if. And the uncertainty is of health.
Yep.
That's the big caveat. You have to buy into the fact that Tua is going to stay healthy. I think if he stays healthy and stays on the field, I think that's a very low number. I think he's easily going to surpass 4,000 passing yards down there in Miami, even if they should say acquire Jonathan Taylor before their first game of the season, an opening weekend in the NFL. I still think Tagovailoa passes 4,000 passing yards. So I'll take Tua Tagovailoa over 3,800.5 passing yards this season.
We feel very Dolphin-centric here. Wow.
I know, a little South Beach.
Yeah, I like South Beach.
How was your vacation, by the way?
It was unforgettable.
Okay.
Literally. So we didn't talk about it on the air before time. So me and the fam, we went to Rome, spent 3 days in Italy and Rome, did everything imaginable there, like all of the sights and the sounds, and the Colosseum is amazing, and the Spanish Steps. And we got really lucky. Joe Tartamella, he's the head coach of the women's basketball team at St. John's. They're family friends of ours. Our boys are friends. They happened to be in Italy the exact same time for a basketball tournament. So we hung out with them one night. Like literally our kids are playing tag and doing that shadow boxing game that you do at the Spanish Steps. That's awesome. Great. Yeah, so cool. And then we hopped on the cruise, which took us to Santorini, Greece. It's gorgeous. Took us to Ephesus, Turkey, which was really cool. Got some really good ice cream there. Went to Mykonos in Greece and did the one bougie thing that we did the whole vacation. We booked this like really, really high-end, swanky beach club and just like lounged, and it was amazing. And then we did Napoli, Pompeii, and Sorrento in Italy as well.
How long were you gone for?
12.5 days.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
What a trip. How was the boat?
So I was worried. We talked about this. Yeah, I'm not a boat guy. I get motion sickness. I wore the patches behind the ears, and I took one pill, this Bomine something, every morning. Fine. I was no problem.
How many people? Was it overcrowded? The pool? Like how was the food on the boat?
Food was awesome. I mean, I ate like I was not going to be alive 2 weeks later. Like I decided that we're just YOLO, baby. Eat everything that was in front of me. One of the nights, because you go to the same dining area, one of the nights, the guy, the Dante, he's awesome. He was telling me about the 2 dinner options. Well, actually, there were like 5, and I was really torn between 2. He ended up just bringing them both to me.
That's great.
So I had a steak and like pasta or whatever it was, and then I had escargot for one day. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's great.
All right,
That's
so
good.
you were in Orlando. You did Disney.
We went to Universal first for 2 nights, for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We were there in Universal for 3 nights.
Did you
and
guys
then
go
we
on
were
the
in
big
Disney.
rides? Did you and Jackson go on the big ones?
Jackson didn't. Jackson gets a little motion sickness,
Oh, okay.
so
Right.
he did not partake on
Okay.
on the big rides. But yeah, Velociraptor. Gregory went on a lot of the big rides. My youngest.
Wow.
Yeah, 6-year-old. He was going on not the upside down roller coasters,
Okay.
the other ones. Donna put her foot down. No upside down roller coasters, but yeah, did Harry Potter Land. Fantastic. Walked around. Had some great meals. Was hot as anything.
What did you think of the Harry Potter, the bitter beer or whatever it's called? The
butter beer.
Butter beer, thank you.
It's very sweet.
Really sweet, yeah.
Really sweet. Like very, very sweet. Like I had a couple sips of my son's. Like,
did you try them both, the slushy one and the drink one?
I did. The slushy one's better.
Agreed. Yes.
Yes. The slushy one is better. I didn't like the non-slushy version. But Disney's awesome. I mean, the mouse always wins. I mean, that's it. I mean, we had an unbelievable, unforgettable trip. You know, the kids, they met Darth Vader and Chewbacca. Did the Rise of the Resistance ride, was amazing at Hollywood Studios. Rode the new roller coaster Tron at Disney World, which was that Psycho coaster was fantastic. Had an amazing time. We really
and the food was decent, right? Now, I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's decent enough, right?
Yeah, I mean most nights. Yeah, I mean it's
Did you end up doing a lot of chicken fingers and
a lot of
pizzas
chicken
and
fingers
stuff,
and
right?
fries and stuff like that. Yeah, so I mean you're not going there. You're not going to get a 5-star dining. Well, we had a couple really good meals. I would say that we ate at Space. I think it was like Spaceship 2020. I don't know. It's in Epcot. And it was great. And we walked around the countries in Epcot and walked back around the countries in Epcot. They had the wine and food festival going on, and it was a lot of good food. It was really good. So that I enjoyed.
Well, that is an awesome trip. Hey, before we go, got to remind everybody. So next week on Tuesday, we're not going to be on at 10 a.m. We're going to be on at 8 o'clock at night. We're going to be taking part, or at least hosting, a high-stakes fantasy football draft. So it's going to be Moose and Keith talking fantasy football with people that are spending lots and lots of money to be involved,
which will be fun. It'll be different.
Yes.
That's
yes,
it. Yeah, and that's with real time at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night.
Yep,
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. Well,
it does it for us.
I missed you.